don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD, Annabel, and Melissa.
All right, guys, we're excited. We have another guest on this week's episode, and it's a subject that is really near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited to introduce Josh here. He is an expert in content marketing and building your brand. Welcome to the show, Josh.
What's going on, Annabelle? Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be on the show. Always love talking about content marketing and then having any surprise questions that you have for me. You already asked me one or two before jumping on the show, so I'm excited to answer those. But yeah, it's always good to be on the show. I appreciate it. I have hosted many podcasts, so it's always, a good thing to have guests on the show and being able to tap into, their networks and that kind of thing. So I know it can be difficult to get people scheduled. I know we had to reschedule a couple times because of mine and my schedule and that kind of thing. So I appreciate you having me on though.
Awesome. Well, thanks. We're glad you're here. So can you tell us a little bit just about kind of where you started your business, where your business is at now, and then kind of where you're at in your real estate journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'll start from kind of the beginning of where I started off with, and then this actually might answer the question that you were going to surprise me with. So the one you asked me before we jumped on the show here, but I've been in the real estate investing industry for about 7 years now. So I don't know how many people here know a guy named Gary Harper. He is a business systems and process guy, and he works specifically with real estate investors. And he actually brought me on when I was 19 years old. So I'm 26. Next month, I'll be 27. I was 19 years old when he brought me on his team. And we were buying and selling virtually in the state of Michigan. We're in Northwest Indiana, right outside Chicago. We were buying and selling virtually in Michigan and Ohio. And that was before it was popular to virtually wholesale. So that was really cool to be one of the pioneers of that. We had no clue what we were doing. We just both realized that we disliked going out to the States, disliked doing walkthroughs, and disliked, putting bandit signs out and stuff like that. So we just figured, what are our strengths? Well, it's to kind of be innovative. And so both of us have kind of already split off into our own businesses at this point to innovate on our own. But that's kind of like how we got started into that. And then, that kind of grew, and then we ended up buying and selling in Ohio as well. And it's kind of crazy, Annabelle, like you asked like where that's kind of gone. When I first started in this was, we're talking 2013, 2014. Okay. I just remember all of the marketing that we were doing was all dispositions, 100% dispositions. Because we were placing thousands of bids a day. We had VAs placing thousands of bids a day on HUD, auction.com, MLS, and all those other auction websites for houses. You could literally snap your fingers and a deal would appear just at your front doorstep. Wow. So it was super easy to get a deal. And the name of the game was to sell the deals, right? So that was like, we were wholesaling, but we were almost, we're not really reverse wholesaling, but close enough to it where, nowadays in the past 3 or 4 years, it's gone all acquisitions marketing, which is kind of crazy to see that evolution. And I think it's a real testament to show what, a recession can do. I wasn't in the 08, 09 recession. I was still in high school. I was a freshman in high school when it started. And, coming out of that recession, that's when we had that surge of inventory hit the market, and it lasted for many years. And then it went completely dry. I remember almost overnight HUD just dried up, and we had to go 100% to acquisitions marketing for a couple of years. And then now I can see that happening again with this whole, economic crisis that's been caused by COVID. I could see that coming down the pipe again. Now, who knows if it is or not? I'm not a prophet or anything, but it's a possibility. But that's kind of like I wouldn't call it cycles of real estate, but that's kind of like the flow of what I've been involved with. And then, that eventually evolved into me. I've always had a side hustle of a business of doing media type services for real estate investors. And so then last March, that kind of emerged where I went full time into my own business. And now we're doing specifically content marketing for active in real estate investors and also influencers in the real estate investing industry. And so that's what we're primarily focused on at this point. So
awesome. And I know that you're, you know, representing some big names, some big guys doing awesome things. And I think one of the greatest thing about a lot of the guys that you work with is that they are so active in sharing the knowledge, in mentorship, in getting the information out there. So much of it is free too. You know, there's tons of content, there's videos and podcasts. Can you tell us just a little bit about how you kind of started working with them and how you kind of tailor their needs to your skill set?
yeah, for sure. So I guess the first thing is, so to answer your first question was how, how are we working with them? Well, kind of going more off of like the marketing and media side. Many people think that I do tons of marketing for my business, and I do some, but it's more specifically for REI.video as opposed to the services of the clients that you, talked about, these higher end influencers. And it's all networking, like getting out of my zone. And, and I don't really call it a zone because I'm not an introvert at all. I like to have my quiet time. I like, right now to the entire day today, my wife's been out of the house. She's nannying for the family that she nannies for. And so I like my alone time as well, and just being able to focus, that kind of thing. But I am a natural extrovert, so I like to talk to people. And that is how I've come across. So there's multiple phases to that. One is actually like, connecting with people on a level of building a relationship. So I can very, very confidently say every client that we have, I've had a relationship with before I even took them on as a client. Because I have a no a-hole client policy
Love that.
for my business. And I let people, and believe it or not, like when I'm on a phone call with a prospect or a lead, I tell them that straight up.
Good.
So they know if they are that personality, they are not going to be working with me. So, so that's like, it's building, but it's building that relationship. Right. And, I obviously do that in a respectful way. But it's building the relationship, but then on the back end of it, it's actually delivering that value that they're looking for. So nailing down the expectations and the deliverables. And I even have a policy where like, I don't do contracts with my clients. I just don't. A lot of marketing agencies, they'll lock you into 12, 18 months for a contract. You get 6 months down the road, halfway through that contract, and you're not getting the value that you were expecting, and you're still locked in. And so I don't operate that way. I tell my clients month to month, if you don't like what we're doing, we have the expectations and deliverables nailed down for you, and it's in an email format. And if you're not getting the value, then you cut the cord. And so we've fired a couple clients over it. We parted ways mutually with a couple, but for the most part, the clients that we've kept, I mean, we've kept them and they love what we're doing for them. And so it's networking, but then on the backside, it's actually delivering what they're expecting and keeping that constant communication. And then as for, the delivery side, I've got a team. I actually just hired another 2 people. So now we're up to 8 team members. I've got 4 video producers, a copywriter, a distribution manager, and then a graphic designer, and myself, and my personal assistant. But it's a team. And then a big testament to being able to operate as much as we do. I mean, we push out close to 1,000 pieces of content every single week. And that's a lot of content to be pushing out. And so with that, if you did not have the right team in place, if you not have the right systems, the right processes in place, this would not be possible, period. I've worked very, very much and worked very hard on my systems and processes, and made sure that those are locked in. And as long as those are locked in, we lost a team member this past week. I decided to let him go because he wasn't delivering, what we were supposed to have from him. And I was able to hire somebody on the spot, and I had the training videos all ready to go for them. They're already, underway in less than 2 days. So having those systems and processes in place to allow us, and that's not just for a media business, that's for any business.
Business.
Real estate, because I've been in, a business, the wholesaling business, and we had systems and processes set in place. And as long as you got that in place, it's scalable. It's definitely something that you could scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can tell you got good mentors and good coaches.
Oh, absolutely. I would not be where I'm at today without my mentors and coaches, the people I've, been placed around. So
that's huge. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of when you decided to, this kind of on the fly question. I don't know if we talked about this, but the question we get asked a lot is when we decided to pay for mentorship, and when we decide how we knew we were at the level where we needed to make that investment. And people don't always know it's an investment at first, when you're just starting. But can you tell me a little bit about that for you, and when you knew, okay, that I want to make this a priority?
That's a good question. So like, I might have a little bit of a different answer than, what somebody else might give you. And I don't know, maybe I don't have the right placement to judge that. But like, for me, I'm the type of person, a lot of people hire coaches, hire mentors for accountability. I hold myself accountable. I've never had an issue, even when I was a little younger playing sports and all that kind of stuff. Like even in schooling, like I sucked at school, but I held myself accountable. Like I sucked at being in the classroom and taking the schooling. But when it came down to like the homework and studying for tests and memorizing what I had to memorize, I would do it. And I didn't have to have my parents tell me or my teachers, be on top of me for it. I would just do it because I'm good at holding myself accountable. And that's something I'm confident in being able to say without having a big head about it. It's just, I'm self-aware. I know what my strengths are. For me, the mentorship comes into play of having the ability to tap into experience. And so I actually just hired my first coach, the end of last year. So it was November of last year.
Okay.
And he's, his name's Henry Kaminsky. I actually just got off a call with him right before we jumped on the show here. And, I pay him monthly to be on 2 calls with him every single month. I get him for an hour, and it's kind of funny because like I don't have him hold me accountable for what we talk about. He just knows that I'm going to do it. And if I don't do it, it's for a very specific reason. Either I tried it and it failed, or I just didn't seem like it was a good fit.
Okay.
I tap into his experience and his knowledge. So he's very big into branding. He's massive in branding. He does branding for professional athletes and celebrities.
Wow.
And so I'm able to tap into that side of like what his experience is. And so even going further back, before I even paid for mentors, I would just like, honestly, I would just I would go to events. I would sit at a dinner table and offer to buy the smartest person at the table a glass of wine or a beer or whatever they wanted, and buy them that and just ask questions. Like that was my form of learning. And it always has been. I'm just sitting across from a table of somebody and just asking questions, shutting my mouth, listening, taking it in, and then, reporting back to them. Like literally if I had somebody give me a really valuable piece of information, I'm like, cause I do that kind of thing where I'm like, that makes sense. Like I'll respond that way, like literally out loud. And then I'll go act on it. And if I act on it, then I'll come back to that person and say, hey, remember when you told me about that? I actually tried it and it worked beautifully. Like, and I'll respond that way. So that's always been my form of learning when it comes to mentorship. So I've always, done that. Even with my coaches and my teachers, I was always asking questions, even if they seemed cynical. I remember sitting in class one time and I asked the science teacher, like, why do I have to learn about Jupiter? I'm not going to use that. And like, it's like a very cynical question, but to me, that was my form of learning. Like I wasn't trying to be cynical. I was legitimately asking. So I think when it comes to mentorship, people need to just be able to shut their mouth, listen. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen, take that information and do something with it. And then at my level, like I said, I pulled the trigger on paying for a mentor, a coach, and then I pay to be a part of a couple of masterminds, which is a really big deal. But some of that's a lot more marketing tools than anything. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And there's no right answer. That definitely has value, and that resonates a lot the same way that the same reason that we need it. And it's not necessarily that accountability, but drawing on those experts who've been through similar struggles and who want to share those nuggets of information that actually work. So definitely. Okay. So tell me a little bit. I think we met at the first Inner Circle Elite meeting, which is one of our real estate masterminds that we're in with Don Costa. It's definitely awesome. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of how you got a relationship with Inner Circle Elite and that kind of thing?
Yeah. So, that's a pretty straightforward and simple one. I have a client, his name's John Martinez. He's, the REI Sales Academy trainer. He's probably the biggest name in the real estate industry for sales training.
My husband loves him for his Valentine's Day. His Valentine's Day gift was literally John Martinez on the podcast.
That is awesome.
Listen to episode 8 if you guys don't know who John is.
Yeah. So awesome person. I've had him on my podcast many times, and just one of the coolest human beings you'll ever meet. And I literally just there was a point when we were doing services with him, and he had to cancel one of the projects we were doing with him because he was going in a different direction. And so I'm just like, oh, hey, that's cool, John. Would you mind just like kind of like recording a video for me and then sending it to me, just a quick testimonial of your experience with what we've done? And I just asked him that, like, and he's a friend of mine, so I didn't have an issue asking him something like that. And I asked it in a non-professional way, more like passive. And next thing I know, I'm tagged in a Facebook post, and he just has like this like 3-paragraph post of how much value he's gotten out of what, our services has done for
What
him.
a testament
And
to your hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had probably 50 people message me, call me, text me, email me within about a span of 2 days. And so it was ridiculous. And then amongst that group was Don. And so Don reached out to me, and he's he said, we've got a group that we're getting ready to start. And you mentioned the founding members, and he's like, we're getting ready to start this mastermind. And I know you've been involved with masterminds before. So we'd love to tap into your knowledge about, building this mastermind, and also, having you do some content production for us and offer your services that way. So we ended up doing that. And so we're still doing stuff like with Inner Circle Elite and what they've got going on. But we're doing a lot more for just Don himself. So like his Flip Talk podcasts and all that. So most of the content that, if you guys follow Don on Flip Talk, most of that content is my team that actually produces that and distributes it.
Awesome.
And so we're doing all that for him. But yeah, I love the group. Melissa Johnson's also one of my favorite clients. My wife Gabby and her are like best friends, and we go visit Melissa pretty often.
Awesome.
So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, Inner Circle is a great group of people. A lot of incredible people I've met there. A lot of friendships that I formed over that. So I always recommend that.
Awesome. And you're right. It all kind of circles back to that networking and that building relationships.
Yep. And delivering the value. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I delivered that value to John, and he gave me that shout out. And like, he wouldn't have given me a shout out if he didn't get value. You know what I'm saying? Like, and post that actually on his Facebook wall where he's got 5,000 friends. So,
No, that's huge. Okay, so coming back a little bit, full circle back to, I don't know if you know, but I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for our brand, Shorefront Restorations. And then in the Air Force, I'm actually a Public Affairs Officer. So I help represent the Air Force and kind of share what the Air Force does for the community and build those kind of ties, recruiting, that kind of thing. So, brand management, content management, and, just kind of all the things we have, all this information that we're getting in this digital age is really something I'm interested in studying and learning about. Can you tell me, we have a lot of beginning listeners, so can you kind of give me like the beginning, what's the most important content, or where you should start if you're just starting to generate your content and your brand and defining who you are? And then can we get to the more higher level stuff at where you guys are now and how you're kind of managing those big name brands like John Martinez and Don Costa?
Yeah. So there's different structures for the content marketing. But the principles always stay the same. So the way we do content marketing for an active real estate investor, somebody that's actively, flipping or, acquiring deals and stuff like that, like wholesaling, that's a lot different from somebody like John Martinez or Don Costa, Mike Hambright, Jerry Green, like these people that we actually do. They're more influencer type things. So your podcast is an influencer platform, right? So that's like, you're not doing this podcast to acquire sellers. You're doing this podcast to educate. And so there's different like structures and formats to separate those two types of people.
Good point.
Just like, if you're doing content marketing for a cake shop, it's not going to be the same as like what you're doing for an active investor. But the good news is that the principles always stay the same. So where you always start is my definition of content marketing. Content marketing, all it is answering the questions that your target demographic have about your industry, your services, or your product. Okay. That's all it is. That is literally in a nutshell what content marketing is. And then from there, you just, blossom that out to how do you answer those questions? More times than not, it's going to be through, videos, articles, podcasts, depending on your demographic, graphic images, infographics, email blasts, stuff like that. So that's essentially where you start. So what I always tell people, if you're a newbie, or this works for anybody actually that's an active investor, whenever you get on the phone with a seller, write down every single question they have. Doesn't matter if it's a trivial question, if it's elementary question, or if it's something that's like really high level. Write it down, shoot a video on it, answering that question, and then you post that on your Facebook page, your Google My Business page, you post that on your website and all that. That is by far the best way to get started, because that's hard questions that people are asking. That's actual questions. And that's great content. So the way you got to look at it too is that content marketing is like your 24-hour salesman. They don't, take a break. They don't call off work because they got COVID-19. They don't take vacations. They don't take smoke breaks. They don't take lunch break. Like, they are on the clock 24/7. So if a seller wakes up at 2:00 in the morning because they're sleepless because of the motivation they have of selling their home, and they go on the internet and they search sell my house or what to do with my pre-foreclosure. I'm in pre-foreclosure now. What to do with my house in Baltimore, Maryland. If your content shows up and answers their question, you have automatically built rapport with that seller and you've automatically gotten in with them. And as soon as your office opens up that next day, you're probably going to be getting a call from them. And so that's essentially like the framework that you got to be looking at it as. So that content is answering the questions that's out there for your target demographic to see. A lot of people think content marketing is advertising, and it's not. There's a difference. You know, in marketing, there's this big umbrella, and you have a silo of content marketing and you have a silo of advertising, and there's hundreds of other silos outside of that and then inside of those as well. But at the end of the day, that's all content marketing is answering the questions that your target demographic has. And you can always, you know, that's the best way to get topics for your content marketing is, you know, asking the question or writing down the questions that your sellers have. But then also you could go to, you know, Google Keyword Planner and search hard data of what people are actually searching. There's another platform I love to use. It's called answerthepublic.com. And you type in a key phrase or a keyword and it'll spit out a bunch of data that is searched in relation to what you are searching there. And that's all topics that you could shoot content about. So record the videos and get them posted. Don't be afraid to record videos with your phone because that's the way the world is now. You don't have to have a fancy camera and lights, and especially with the demographic you're going after. And then the last thing I'll say here is the environment. So, you know, a lot of people think they got to be sitting in an office with lights and, you know, fancy camera, like I said, microphone, stuff like that. Be in the environment that you're talking about. That's a really good tip. So, you know, for instance, if you are shooting a video about what to do with the pre-foreclosure, go to a house maybe you have under contract. Or if you have, like, just say, for instance, mom and dad have a house that looks like it's from the 60s, like go to their house and just ask them, hey, do you mind if I just record a video in the front yard real quick? Because you got the old looking brick and the, you know, like all that stuff. And record the video there and then just post that to your YouTube channel, embed that onto your website, post that to Google My Business and everything. And that's just a great place to start. And don't be afraid to get on the camera, because if you don't do it, your competitors will.
Yeah, no, those are all really great points. I specifically love the point, like, especially starting out, you don't need to have this professional photography, these professional quality videos. Like, just get being comfortable. Yes, get it out there.
And it's not even just starting either. Like I have real estate investors that we've shot videos for, and what I'll literally do is I'll have my camera, and it's not like a crazy setup. I just have my one DSLR camera.
Okay.
I have a $30 Amazon lapel mic that I hook up to them. And I literally set my camera on the tripod, and I don't want it to be still. I want it to be a little shaky. So I'll literally have it on a monopod so that it has some movement to it, so it feels raw. And I just have them stand in front of a house and record it that way. They just don't want to shoot the videos themselves. But some of these investors I'm doing stuff with, they're doing, like one of my clients, Eric Brewer in York, Pennsylvania, they're doing 600 deals a year, and we're doing content like that.
Wow.
So it's not just for beginners, it's for everybody.
No, great points. So when you're first kind of building your brand and your website, what is your advice to those people? Because I think predominantly we have beginning investors listening. So they kind of hear about, we hear Don's story where he's like, I didn't have business cards. I didn't have a brand. I went out there and I door knocked.
Yeah.
We were kind of the opposite, where we specifically and strategically picked out who we were, who our company was, and we tried to build from that point. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think, okay, so like exactly that example you just gave, everybody has a different type of personality of what they're going to do, right? So somebody like Don, yes, I can imagine him not having like any websites, any web presence, any business cards, and just going and bootstrapping everything, which is a good way to start for a lot of people, but that's just not scalable, because I promise you Don's not doing that right now. So that might be the way to start. You might have to start that way, where you're door knocking, you're driving for dollars, and you have no web presence. But at some point, especially the way we're going, and you got to think, Don started how long ago?
Yeah, early 2000s,
like before the internet was like readily accessible at the tip of our fingers, at the tip of our tongue, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's important to consider as well. But at the end of the day, I would much rather people just get content out on the internet. So like, no matter what, you got to look at content marketing as it feeds everything. I even talked about like how content marketing is a little different from advertising. Even with advertising, so if you're going to run a Facebook ad or a Google AdWord or whatever, an ad that's a paid ad, you still have to have content in that ad. It's got to be contextual content, right? So you have to have a video or an article or text. So content feeds everything, and that includes your website and includes your entire web presence. So I would say the first thing is like and especially when it comes to branding, branding can be a little tricky because it depends on the demographic you're going after. This is why it's so important to know your demographic extremely well. So I've even gone as far as looking into data of like, I'm sure you guys know Todd Swaggerty with Yellow Letter HQ. And I've had conversations with him. I'm like, like Todd, like when you send out these postcards, do people brand them and they have like an excellent looking brand, a very like Apple-esque looking brand, clean cut, great typographies, great colors, stuff like that? Or do you get more results from the mom and pop looks where you go to Fiverr, you get the same logo as like thousands of other investors? He said, believe it or not, it's not even a competition. The mom and pops always went out. Yeah. And so that's why it's so important to know your target demographic. You got to know them inside and out, know them better than they know themselves. That's why it's so important to write down their questions, because then you're able to tap into their minds. But if you know them well, you'll be able to point the branding in the right direction and figure out what's actually going to mold with your target demographic. So give you, for instance, a lot of people, especially in the Midwest here, a lot of and real estate investors, their target demographic age-wise is not my age. I'm going to be 27 next month, right? And if you send me a postcard, it's going directly in the trash can, right? Yep. But that's lucky for real estate investors. I'm not their target demographic because I haven't owned my house for 30 years. And now I just want to get rid of it because it has too much work that needs to be done. So a lot of people, their target demographic is above that age of 45, 50, 60. Some of my clients, their highest demographic is 60 to 65. And they love postcards. They love getting mail. They love turning on the radio and hearing ads. They love, turning on the television and still watching those infomercials and stuff like that. So that's why it's so important to know them. Like, so Facebook ads may not always win out. And it depends on what market you're in. And, again, one of my clients in Phoenix, their target demographic is a much younger age group. And so Facebook ads and Google ads, they work beautifully for them. And postcards, non-existent. Yep. So it's the same thing for text blasting and all that stuff. So I know I'm going a lot of different directions here, but it all comes back to knowing your target demographic. And at some point, you do need to make sure you get content up on your website, get a Google My Business set up, because that's extremely important. Fill that bad boy out. Facebook page, even though Facebook's a pay-to-play platform at this point, you still want to make sure that you have content on there and contextual content, push people to get you reviews when you do business with them. So it's all about filling that content up and getting all that out there.
No, that's awesome. I think those are great starting points. I think, that's exactly how you have to know your audience, take that time to understand, and then relentlessly, how often? Let's talk about that. So I believe in daily content on every single platform. So we do LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, on our webpage, both as influencers and as wholesalers. Tell me about kind of what's too much maybe, and what's your guys' sweet spot, or what you've learned through your experience on what's the right amount.
You will never put out enough content, period.
Okay.
So here's no matter what marketers say, no matter how complicated they want to make it because they want to sound smart, here is the basic outline of how the social media algorithms work. If somebody gets value out of your content, they're going to engage with it. If they engage with it, they probably liked it, so they engage with it. Mm-hmm. And if they liked your content, they're probably following you because they like your content, right? So it's the same thing for sellers, buyers and sellers. If you put content out there that educates them on what they're supposed to do with their pre-foreclosure, or what they're supposed to do with their property, that, they're a retired landlord and they're tired with the property, and you're educating them on what options they have, that kind of thing. That's the progression. So let's work that backwards. If somebody does not like you, they're probably not going to like your content. If they don't like your content, they're probably not engaging with it. If they're not engaging with it, then they're not going to see it. Mm-hmm. So that's what it comes down to, is that if somebody loves your content, they're going to engage with it more. The platforms are going to push that content into their feed a lot more because they're engaging with it. They like it a lot more. What's crazy is like when you think about it, the content that you see the most, if you see it repetitively, it's because you're engaging with that type of content. It may not even be that specific Facebook page. It could be a similar Facebook page that you're seeing content on, or Instagram as well. So what you fill your attention with, even if it's just watching a video instead of just liking it or commenting, you're still engaging with it because you're watching the video.
Yep.
Your target demographic is going to see that more. And again, if people don't like your content, they're not going to engage with it, which means they're not going to see it. And so, for instance, many people, and I know everybody's got their own opinions and preferences, but I'm a big Gary Vee fan because I love his genuineness. Like I gravitate to that too very much. I follow him and I follow Grant Cardone. Now I know Grant Cardone has a very big following and a lot of people love him to death. I think it's a love-hate relationship with both those guys.
Yeah.
I do not gravitate to the fancy clothes, the cars, the jets, and the money, the cash, and all that stuff. I don't gravitate to it. So I follow both these guys. I hardly ever see stuff from Grant Cardone. I always see stuff from Gary Vee because I'm always watching his videos. I'm always liking. I don't really comment much, but I always like his stuff. I always watch it, and my thumbs even stopped on the image reading it. With Grant Cardone, if I see like a suit or a cash, I don't care what it's about. I'm scrolling past it.
Yeah.
And so I never see his stuff. And so that's the thing. So Grant Cardone could put out 100 pieces of content a day. I wouldn't see any of it because I don't engage with it on a consistent basis. And that's how the algorithms work. So, and all be all, you can never put out enough.
Okay. No, that's a great point too. I hope Grant doesn't listen. No, I'm just kidding. We don't know him.
I love a lot of what he stands for, but, and he probably knows that, like, people love or hate him. Gary Vee's the same way. So I don't stand for a lot of what Gary Vee talks about either. Like, I don't like the hustle and grind mentality. I think that's important, but at the end of the day, it's not something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So, there's ebbs and flows, and people gravitate to different people and personalities, but that's why it matters so much when it comes to putting out volume of content.
Yep. Especially now where you can pick, there's so many different people, different, we have it all. We have such a variety here. It definitely matters a lot.
Absolutely.
Okay. So kind of wrapping up, where can people find out more about you? Where can they ask you questions? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So you could, hopefully you're okay with me talking about my podcast.
Yes, please share.
So I have two podcasts. One is definitely one that you guys should listen to. It's called the REI Marketing Weekly. So I have the top real estate investors in the entire country on that show. It's a weekly podcast that comes out. And all we talk about is marketing, period.
Awesome. Nothing
else. We don't talk about anything but marketing. And it's not like talking about podcasts. It's not talking about YouTube channel. It's talking about like actual marketing that these investors are doing in their business. And so you can find that on any platforms, or you can go to reimarketingweekly.com. Also have a newsletter. You can find that on the website as well. That goes out weekly with a lot more content that opens up specifically for real estate investors and their marketing. I also have another podcast called the Content Marketing Playbook, and that's specifically talking about content marketing, the principles of content marketing, what to do. And that's not specific to real estate investors. It works for anybody. So that one as well. And then you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook. And then also, if you guys haven't noticed, rei.video, it's a platform that we have where you could, we talk about shooting your own videos, and this website, you go to that and submit your raw footage. We'll edit it. You'll fill out a little short order form, and then it's a 48-hour turnaround time, unlimited revision, so you get the exact video you're looking for. So you don't have to do all the heavy lifting of the editing, post-production, stuff like that. So if you want captions, music, clips and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah. So that's how you can connect with me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Josh. We really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show with us today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it and look forward to being back.
Definitely.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, check out our website, shorefrontrestorations.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Shorefront Restorations. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at info@shorefrontrestorations.com. See you next episode.